In this last video on the series of writing functional programs, you're going to become familiar with operations to perform on a list. So a list, which we've been using already in the previous videos, is nothing more than a collection of items of a similar type, e.g. integers or strings. Now in the exam you have to be familiar with writing simple programs in a functional language which make use of the following list operations: returning the head of the list, returning the tail of the list, testing for an empty list, returning the length of a list, constructing an empty list, prepending an item to a list, and appending an item to a list. So let's work through those now. So the first thing to understand is that a list comprises a head and a tail. The head is always the first element of a list, and the tail is the remainder. So a concatenation of a head and a tail is a list. So we can see here I've declared two lists, and when I say head scores, I get 12. If I say tail scores, I get the remainder. Same thing here for students. It is also possible to say tail, and then inside it called tail, and then inside it called tail, and then called students. And of course what we're doing there, effectively, is just pulling back these items. So have a little practice of these in Haskell until you're happy and familiar with those commands, and then move on. You also need to know how to create an empty list. Now that's easy. We just give it a name, and an empty list is represented by an open and closed square brackets with nothing in between. You can test for an empty list by using the built-in function null. So here we have three lists, and students, when we say null students, it tells us false because students is not empty, and when we say null empty list, we get true because this list is empty. Have a little go, and when you're comfortable, move on. You can return the length of a list simply by using the built-in function length. So here we go again, here's our three lists, and if I say length scores, students, an empty list, I get told the lengths are 7, 4 and 0. You can prepend an item to a list, that means add it to the front, by using either the colon or the plus plus operators. So here's my scores list, and if I say 99 colon scores, you can see it prepends it to the start. I can also do a string of values like this, and it will put all three of them to the start. Here's the same thing with the plus plus operator, adding a single value to the start and 3. Remember, once again, it's worth pointing out this is not altering the original list scores because items in functional programming are immutable. This is generating a new list and outputting it to you. Finally, you need to know how to append an item to a list. That's adding to the end. Now, there's a couple of ways you can do this. The easiest one is to use the plus plus operator and use it to append a list made from the element to be appended. So here again we have scores, and we say scores plus plus 99, and it adds it to the end. Now you could define a function append. Now this might look like a complicated line, but if you work through it, what the append function is doing is first reversing the list, then it prepends an item, and finally reverses it again. Now I've declared this function append, I can just say append, provide it with my value, and call the list. And we can see here 99 gets added onto the end of that list. Now practice these various list operators, become comfortable with them, because these are the ones that they expect you to know and be able to use in examination situations.